Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life with best-selling author and coach Kathy Williams, a show to help you tap into the support of the universe and access the abundance that's available in every area of your life. Listen in for conversations and tools to create more ease, joy, and possibility with family, relationships, business, and living. Kathy's joyful perspective will help you tap into your own wisdom and create a life of presence and abundance your way. Listen live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, or anytime on iTunes or at IOM-FM.
Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is Kathy Williams, and we are going to have a conversation today about something that has been requested by a listener, and I love to hear from all of you. You know, your thoughts, your feedback, your questions. It just changes so much for me to have that kind of interaction instead of like being on the radio for an hour and not hearing anything. So the best way to get in touch with me is at my website, meetkathywilliams.com, and that's where you can also pick up a free money rain meditation and a create your life exercise that I get some great feedback about. So our topic today is one that's relevant to every one of us. And it comes up with family, with our bodies, with parenting, you name it, it comes up. And that is non-judgment, or a more positive way of putting that, like when, instead of thinking about judgment, would be allowance. And the space of allowance where you're allowing all of life without resistance. That doesn't mean you don't take steps to change things. So we're going to explore that a little bit because I got some messages from people saying, Kathy, I really don't actually get this. Like, does it mean that I'm a doormat? I sometimes feel like that's what it means. And the answer is no. If someone's standing on your toe, non-judgment, allowance, doesn't mean that you stand there and continue to let them stand on your toe, right? You can ask them to move without judging them. Does that make sense? So you can take action, you can say things with a quality of allowance that create change, but you're not in judgment. So allowance doesn't mean just continue to allow people to do what they're doing without speaking up, without creating a different possibility, okay? And we can dive into that more. The more I've come into the space of allowance in my life, the more ease there is in my body, right? Judgment takes a lot of tension. And judgment, each judgment we have takes other judgments to hold it in place. Judgment is one of the greatest ways people use to control you. And so we're going to explore all of these different aspects to create a different possibility for you. So one of the things that Access Consciousness introduced me to was the idea that consciousness includes everything and rejects nothing. So it doesn't make anything wrong. Consciousness is not like God in the sky pointing its finger at you saying, well, actually, you should not have done that, right? That is not consciousness. Consciousness includes everything, rejects nothing. And so when we're in resistance in our life, when we're looking at what we've done or someone else has done or the way life is showing up, and we're resisting that, saying, well, that's not the way it should be, or we're making something wrong, we're not being conscious, right? We're not including everything, rejecting nothing. Consciousness does not mean just having your eyes open, right? Now I'm conscious. We resistance. So we'll talk today a little bit about resistance. We'll talk about some exercises that you can do to have more allowance. And the more you come into the space of allowance for you and for others, the more you actually see possibility instead of problems, which is really cool. And that takes even less effort to live. So tension is gone. Now it's less effort. That doesn't mean things won't come up. It doesn't mean life will always flow the way you hope it will flow. No. It just means whatever comes up, you don't judge it. You can actually ask, how can I use this to create a greater future? How can I use it to create a greater future than I've ever imagined? So this is one of my very favorite topics, actually. And I teach a lot about it in 4-day workshops. I used to teach the Access Foundation. Now I teach a class called Abundance Alchemy, and that is coming up in November in Laguna Beach, California, a place where there are dolphins. Pretty exciting. And then in Maui in January. So we'll dive in, because judgment is one of the things that dynamically stops both us from seeing possibilities, but also us from receiving as much as we can, as much abundance, as much ease, as much joy. And so we'll play with that as we dive in today. So the first misconception is allowance means you just allow people to keep doing what they're doing. I'll give you a story about this. So Blossom Benedict is a woman who's taught a lot of different classes, and she was telling a story about these people who were super loud in a restaurant, and there were very few tables. She and her husband were at one, and nearby was this really loud table, and her husband got up and he said, I'm going to do something about this. And she kind of shrunk, like, oh no, we should be an allowance. We should just not judge what they're doing. So he got up and he just said something to the effect of, could you tone it down just a little bit? My wife and I are trying to enjoy our meal over here, and we're having trouble hearing each other and stuff like that. And see how saying that does not contain judgment? It's just like, this is what's going on. Okay? Now, if he said, you guys are way too loud and this is inappropriate, whatever, that's totally different, right? That's not the space of non-judgment. So a lot of the time, it's the energy we're presenting with. Like, okay, this is what is. Let me see what I can do to change it. Versus, this is wrong and bad, they're wrong, let me make them change. So one key to seeing if you're an allowance is looking at, do you think something's wrong? Or do you think a different way is right? Okay, those are two sides of polarity, right? The coin of polarity, that's judgment. This way is the right way. That's the wrong one. This is good. That's bad. We have both the positive and the negative sides of polarity. Okay? It was presented to me in a way I really loved as an analogy of, you're going down a river and one bank is the positive bank. This way is right, good, perfect, and correct. Right? You see this a lot in political parties. This is the right way of doing things. Okay? This way is wrong, bad, and awful on the other bank, right? So one side is, yes, this is great, and the other side is, no, that's awful. And so we're going through life down the stream. Let's say we're doing the song, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, gently, merrily. And then you go to one bank and you pick up some stones and you put them in your boat. And now it's a little harder to row your boat. rowing. It's a little more effort. And then you go over to the other bank and you say, well, this is right, or this is bad, whichever. And then you collect those stones and you put those in your boat, and it's harder to row. So the more judgment you have, the harder it is to just flow through life. And you can see this with kids. Kids come in, they don't have a lot of judgment. Right? You teach them things that they're like, oh, okay, this is how things work. Oh, okay. They have a lot of curiosity and openness. And those are two things you can use to evoke a space of allowance. Because you could look at, if you think someone else's point of view is wrong, you could ask them, oh, tell me more about that. What makes you think that way? Like with real curiosity, not probing to make them more wrong, right? Probing to prove that they're wrong. But real curiosity, like, I wonder what makes them see the world in that way. I once was at Starbucks and there was this guy and he said, well, I think he was kind of like, can I buy your drink or whatever? And I said, sure. So, and he started to talk about how he thought our president was the best president there's ever been. And, I didn't happen to agree with that, but I got really curious about okay, what makes him think that? What are the screens and filters he sees the world through that make him think that, make him see the world that way? And that's the spirit of curiosity. Kids are very much like that. Oh, why? Why? With a sense of like, okay, cool. I could see it that way. So that is the space of allowance, being open, curious, not in judgment. And when we can be that way with others, when we can be that way with our bodies, with projects, with the way we show up, even with our past, open and curious, we invite something new to show up, new awareness. Because every judgment we have actually cuts off. It shuts the door to some awareness. So if you can start to just get really curious, it opens the door to more. All right, that's like being in the question, which is another show we'll have coming up, Living from Curiosity, because that was a request recently from a listener. So living in the space where, yeah, I'm curious, yeah, I'm open, people may be doing something I don't really, that doesn't work for me, right? It doesn't work for me to have really loud people at the table next to me, but I'm not going to make them wrong, right? It's just like, hey guys, could you tone it down a little bit? That's allowance. It's not just allowing them to keep going with what they're doing and pretending that you're fine with it, or trying to make yourself fine with it, or making yourself wrong for not being fine with it. Because that's what we do a lot, right? We're not fine with something. And then you might say, well, Kathy, isn't that judging that I'm not fine with something? Well, if someone's standing on your toe, okay, is it just an awareness that that doesn't work for you? If someone's like hanging over your seat on the airplane, you're on the airplane and then someone's large or they're sticking their elbows out and is that judgment that that doesn't work for you, or is it an awareness? Like, yeah, they're in my space. It doesn't, like, I can't go to sleep here. All right. So one of the things we sometimes do if something doesn't work for us is we go to judgment of us. What if we could get curious, like, so is this a judgment or is this an awareness? Oh, I'm not actually judging them. Okay, cool. What could I say here that's going to create something that does work for me? Oh, please get off my toe. Oh, would you mind, putting your hands somewhere else because your elbow's jutting into my rib cage? Find a way to communicate what works for you without making the other wrong. We have a fundraiser for my son's school. He goes to a little school near me. He's in elementary school. And they have this thing where they want you to sell these discount cards for different businesses. And so they send you home with 5, and then you can buy more to then sell. Right? And so I walked into the office to get more, right? Not knowing that I have to pay for them to then sell them to others. And so walking in and finding out, oh, well, to get 3 more cards, you have to pay us $30. Like, that struck me as, oh, wow, that's a little funny. But so allowance would be like, oh, wow, and not judging it. Judgment would be, well, that's weird, right? Like there's a judgment there, right? And some of the tools, I'm going to, in the next section, share some of the tools you can use to start to get out of judgment and create that space of allowance with your body, with your relationships, with yourself. And some of the tools people actually use as a judgment of others. And that is really not what we want to do with them. So after the break, we'll dive in, explore some of these exercises and tools, and think of something you judge in the meantime. And I'll be right back. Thanks so much for listening to Sexy Mom, Abundant Life.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
We have all read about or heard about becoming more spiritual, about working with our energy, the awakening, the shift, about being our authentic selves, living our purpose, reaching our true potential. The challenge doesn't lie in the knowledge, it lies in the execution. The struggle becomes connecting to that limitless self-healing part that each one of us has and gaining control of who we truly are. Hi, I'm Dr. Reverend Aisha Hogan, and you are invited to join me on a master's practice on OMTimes, Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard and 11 a.m. Pacific Standard.
Would you like to have a life of more clarity and abundance? What's possible for you when you get out of your own way? Connect with Kathy Williams for private coaching, or join her online to transform your relationship with abundance in every area of your life with the Radical Abundance course. Kathy also travels, facilitating radical abundance and access consciousness bars and foundation around the world. She'll be in London, Hawaii, Hilton Head, and other fun locations soon. Visit www.meetkathywilliams.com for a class schedule, to connect with Kathy, or invite her to your region and get some free goodies.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. In part 2 of our conversation today, we are going to explore some exercises for getting out of judgment. Because the more we can do that, the less tension we have, the more we receive life, and we see the different possibilities. These exercises have definitely changed my relationship with almost everything, with my body, with my kids, with my parents. Oh my gosh. Well, let me just tell you this. My mom is a recovering hoarder. So there are some rooms in her house we can't actually really walk in. And that is changing to some extent. However, I really noticed the magnitude of the change that I created for myself in terms of judgment once I recognized that it used to be I could spend about 3 days at her house before getting like, I have to get out of here. And now I can spend closer to 2 weeks, and it's no big deal. So that to me was huge, because family are some of the people sometimes who can really push our buttons. And the thing is, we create our buttons with judgment. So we can also dissolve those. So one of the first tools I'd like to introduce to you was a favorite in the online class I taught called 5 Days of Energetic Exercises for Receiving. And that's a product in my shop. It was actually so popular. People loved how it helps them transform out of judgment that they asked for more days. It was supposed to be 5 days, and then we added 3. And just 8 different exercises to help you receive more. And that means stop resisting life as it comes. Stop judging. So this exercise, and that is available as a product in my shop at meetkathywilliams.com. There's a shop there, and you can also get a free energetic exercise for creating your life in there as well. So this exercise, to me, has so many aspects that you can use it with. So let's take something in your body that you would like to change. All right, that could be that you have a tension, or it could be you have some adipose tissue you'd like to get rid of, some condition. All right. So usually when we want to change something, we push at it. This should be different. This should change, right? What can I do to get rid of it? We're going to do the opposite. So, yes, I receive you. Immediately, usually, unless we have too much extra thinking, immediately we usually soften when we say, yes, I receive you. Oh, okay. So, for example, right now I have a tension kind of in my low back, left hip area. So instead of being like, how do I stretch it out or get rid of it, or, what do I have to do? Yes, I receive you. And immediately it softened and it kind of shifted already. So I'm not pushing against it. Yes, I receive you. Thank you for being. Okay. Thank you for being opens you up to the gift that's in the situation that you couldn't have received if you were judging. Does that make sense? So when we're in judgment, we're resisting awareness, we're resisting the gift that's in a situation. When we say, yes, I receive you, thank you for being, we kind of soften and we become receptive. And in the first part of the show, we talked about that openness and receptivity, the curiosity. Right? So you can even use this with a person in your life. or an experience that has just happened that you're not loving. Yes, I receive you. Allows you to settle. Like, not settle in a negative way, but just like allows you to soften. Maybe even take a deep breath. Yes, I receive you. Thank you for being. And maybe you're not feeling thankful. But gratitude is one of the fastest ways to get to the space of allowance. So let's do a different exercise to demonstrate this. Find a part of your body that you judge. Okay. I used to judge my fingernails. So find one that is not like this ginormous conflict for you, something small. Not the biggest one. Take a baby step and choose something small, and later we can practice it on something larger on your own. So take something you judge. And now, like, just be aware of the judgment you have for it. And now be grateful for that part of your body. And like lots of people, what I'm really aware of right now is thighs. So let's say you judge your thighs. Now be grateful for those thighs. Like, oh my gosh, they move me through the world. They allow me to balance and stand, and they're strong, and, you know, gratitude. When you're in a space of judgment for your partner or of the government or of whatever it is, what elements can you find to be grateful for? There's something. Okay? So that's the second exercise. And you can practice this in front of a mirror even. And so, okay, I'm judging this belly. Okay, now I'm grateful for this belly. I'm grateful for the way it digests my food and protects my organs and all the different things, right? It's flexible, whatever comes to mind. And then you can use the first tool we talked about also. Yes, I receive you. Thank you for being. Because here's the thing. Usually when we're desiring to change something, we're actually coming from a space of judging it. Oh, well, I haven't worked out enough. I better work out. Okay? I haven't worked out, so my belly's fat, or I don't eat well enough, right? So New Year's resolutions are really based on that judgment of this thing is not right. Let me change it. If you instead come from the space of gratitude, like, I'm so grateful for my organs. I'm so grateful for this miraculous body that does so many things that I don't even think about. Can you imagine if I had to think about how to digest my food? It'd probably take all day, right? Just as soon as I'm done, then the next meal happens, and I'm back to the start. I wonder what my body would like to look like. Back to curiosity. I wonder what it would like to eat to be in the best shape it can be in, to feel the greatest it can feel. Okay? Now we're in the space of curiosity, and I will do a whole show on that. It's a big topic. Later September or early October. So yes, I receive you. Thank you for being. And then the gratitude. Well, there's gratitude right there. And the curiosity of, okay, how would my body like to show up? What could I eat to create that? How could I move to create that? So when it's another person, let's use a relationship. Oh, let's say you come to, well, I can't find anything positive about this person, right? Anything to be grateful for. All right, then aren't you grateful that you're not them? You didn't have the experiences that they had to turn out how they've turned out. Okay, that's something you could be grateful for. Wow. I wonder what kind of experiences created that. If they're being mean, they must be in pain somewhere. Or have some deep unawareness. I'm so glad I'm not that person. Sometimes that's all you can find, and that's okay. So getting curious, not going into, oh, they're wrong. I don't like the way they did that. That doesn't mean they're wrong. Doesn't mean that they're right either. Right and wrong are indicative of judgment. So that's good and that's bad indicate judgment. Even the idea that something is perfect is a judgment. Right? We usually think that the negative things are judgment and the positive things are awareness. But that's not necessarily true. Okay? That person is lying could be an awareness. That person is sloppy could be an awareness. Right? It's not necessarily a judgment. Okay? What's the difference? An awareness has some sense of expansiveness, ease to it, lightness. A judgment always has the quality of confining, because it's a limitation. You, the being, are super aware, okay? Vastly aware. So when you judge, you actually cut off that awareness and you're confining, which is why it feels off, right? It doesn't feel good to judge. Even the positive judgments, oh, she's perfect, right? Does that really feel lovely? You know, sometimes we could judge that someone's a nice person, which cuts us off from seeing where they're not. So we're going to do another exercise around judgment. And then after the break, I'll tell you this amazing story of where someone was judging someone to be nice, and they really actually weren't. And it's such a profound story of, like, you really can cut off your awareness when you've judged someone as nice or as mean. When you judge them as mean, you may be cutting off your awareness of the times they really are being kind. Okay? So awareness and judgment, this dance, you can just, how do you tell? Ask yourself, is this an awareness? Is it a judgment? And get a sense of what's more expansive. Okay? And as you ask the question, if you're asking the question, is this a judgment? And you get a sense of expansiveness, then your awareness is telling you that it was a judgment. If you have any questions about that at all, message me at meetkathywilliams.com and I'll do a YouTube video to clarify it, or you can make a comment, I think, on some of the locations where this is posted, like YouTube and Facebook and stuff like that. And I'll make something to really clarify that, because I know it can be like, what now? All right, so the next exercise about judgment is super simple. I got it from Access Consciousness, and we're going to do it. You can choose a situation in your life. So choose something that's not going the way you would like it to, or a relationship that's not going the way you would like it to. And this exercise is about using the phrase interesting point of view. Interesting point of view, because any viewpoint we take is only temporary. If we view it as interesting, then it's curious. Okay? It's not solidifying it as this is what's right or this is what's wrong. It's just interesting. All right? So choose something that you didn't work out the way you would like it to, or is challenging for you, and think about your judgments about it, how you would like it to be different. It shouldn't be this way. Interesting point of view. I'd like it to be different. Interesting point of view. Maybe they're not really nice, or they're not really working, or this is not working out. Interesting point of view. So for each thought that you have, just acknowledge it's an interesting point of view. They shouldn't have done that. Interesting point of view. They should be, or it should be different. Interesting point of view. Life would be so much better if it were different. Interesting point of view. So keep going with all your thoughts about it. And for each one of them, interesting point of view. 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 So it may seem like a broken record. It may seem like, well, I'm just saying the same thing. But over time, and maybe you've already recognized, doing this can create so much freedom. So much freedom. And in the class that I did online that you can purchase in my shop, 5 days of energetic exercises for receiving, we did it on various elements, various things, like body, relationship. And you can start to see your judgments kind of unwind or dissipate and float away. One of the exercises we'll do when we come back, first I'll tell you that fun story, and then we'll do another exercise, super simple, super quick, that is actually probably my favorite one. So see you in just a few minutes, everyone. Thanks for listening to Sexy Mom, Abundant Life.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Would you like to have a life of more clarity and abundance? What's possible for you when you get out of your own way? Connect with Kathy Williams for private coaching, or join her online to transform your relationship with abundance in every area of your life with the Radical Abundance course. Kathy also travels, facilitating radical abundance and access consciousness bars and foundation around the world. She'll be in London, Hawaii, Hilton Head, and other fun locations soon. Visit www.meetkathywilliams.com for a class schedule, to connect with Kathy, or invite her to your region and get some free goodies.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from New Thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. There is so much I want to tell you about non-judgment and allowance. And I'm like, the time is going so quickly. So I told you I would tell you this fun story and then do an exercise. But I just love super quick and simple to expand into the space of non-judgment. And when we're in that space of non-judgment, things bother us less, way less. In fact, I used to do this exercise in my classes, and now it's not effective anymore because I actually can't do it, and I'll explain what it is. So I used to do this exercise, which I'm not going to have you do. I'm going to teach you a really fun, different one that you can do on your own. In which other people would judge me. Like the members of the class would judge me. And in one position, I would put up barriers and defenses to their judgment. And so I'd just not let it in. It's not okay. I'm not doing, why would you judge that? Having barriers and defenses. And then we would do round 2. And this was they would each last 2 minutes, not a long time, a minute or 2. And then we do round 2 in which I just drop all barriers and defenses and be an allowance of their judgments. So that would mean I see every one of their judgments of me as just an interesting point of view. It has more to do with their story than it actually has to do with me. More to do with their story than it has to do with me. Okay? So I mentioned early on, actually this is the direction I'd like to go for a moment, that judgment is one of the biggest ways people use to control you. Okay? So if I said to you, why would you wear that? Right? Then you're going to be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't wear this if you're making my judgment real. Okay? However, that's just a story. That's not a good thing to wear. Okay? So judgment, when people are judging you, it's more about them than it is about you. I always kind of say, lift you up out of the situation and plop someone else in there. They would be going through that experience too. Person A's story that you shouldn't be doing something is more about them. It's more about person A than it is about you, the recipient of their judgment. All right. So again, pick you up out, put someone else in your spot. Person A would still be judging. Okay? It's not about you. So let's go to this. If you've ever seen the movie The Help or read the book, and I apologize, I did a long, long time ago, so I'm not going to tell exactly the fruitful details, but enough to get the story across. The essentially servant woman creates a pie. And she usually creates these amazing chocolate pies, really fabulous chocolate pies. And this time she's so pissed off that she's added a special ingredient, which happens to be poop. Okay, so now it's a poop and chocolate pie. So picture this as a demonstration of allowance. Okay, someone gives you a poop pie of judgment. Are you going to eat it? Eating it would mean you've made it real and true and relevant to you, right? Yeah, you're right. Okay? You're right. Your judgment's right. I am a terrible singer. You know how many kids, how many people I come across who were told that when they were kids, 6 years old? They still think, at 56 that they're still a terrible singer. I'm like, well, you could change that, right? If you are, you can actually change that. Okay. So they've eaten the judgment. They've made it real. They've said, yeah, oh, this is true. Okay? So that would be aligning with the judgment. Resisting the judgment, saying, you're wrong, that's not true, okay, would be like throwing the pie back in her face. All right, you receive the poop pie, you throw it back in their face. You say, you're a jerk. Why would you make this for me? Whatever it is, like now you have resistance, and you know what that energy feels like. You know what that energy of reaction feels like. It doesn't feel good, right? That's indicative that you're in judgment, okay? Now, well, then what do? If you don't eat the poop pie, but you don't throw it back at the person, what do? Okay, how can I use this? Okay, you just take it and put it in your garden. Okay? You don't make it relevant. You don't make it about you. What can I use this for? You just take it and put it where it goes. Okay? Not making it significant. Okay. Interesting point of view. They have that judgment about me. Oh, we could even do that. That'd be kind of fun. All right, so I'm just going to tell my mean story on YouTube. You can hop on over to meetkathywilliams.com. Or no, well, there's a YouTube link there too, so that's the easiest way, I guess. YouTube is Kathy Williams Public Figure. And I'll do the story about this person who thought that their boyfriend was super nice when it was really not that way. And it's a fascinating story. All right. But I'd prefer to do this right now to give you an experience of making someone else's judgment not mean anything about you. Okay? So when I do this when I did what I told you with classes, in which they spend a minute judging me and then a minute or two when I'm in the defensive position and then when I have no defenses, then we talk about it afterwards. And what ends up happening is they say, when you were defensive, it was easier to judge you, right? And I don't tell them what role I'm taking before we do the exercise. So they judge me and then judge me again. And then I say, okay, now when was I in the space of allowance? And pretty much they can always tell. And the reason is it's much harder to find things to judge when you are in space of interesting point of view. When you are in the space where, yeah, you can have that story and it's okay. You can have that story about me and it's okay. And I'm not judging them for the judgment, essentially. So interesting point of view. We did an exercise in part 2 of the show of interesting point of view. Now we can apply it to somebody else's judgment. So think of a judgment you've received from someone that kind of touched you, like, I don't like that. And we're going to find a space of allowance, or as much allowance as we can in this moment for that. So think of that judgment. Interesting point of view. They have that point of view. Interesting point of view. I don't like that. Interesting point of view. I have my point of view about their point of view. Interesting point of view. So for every thought you have about this, interesting point of view. Interesting point of view, that hurt me. Interesting point of view. 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 Interesting point of view, they shouldn't have said that. Interesting point of view, maybe I should have been different. Interesting point of view, they have their point of view. Interesting point of view, I have my point of view about their point of view. Interesting 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 point of view. And you may have to interesting point of view it, as a friend of mine says, to death. To keep going and keep going and keep going, and that's okay. I know a woman who at one point had in her phone, it was IPOV, mom. Okay. That reminded her that every time her mom got on the phone, I need to just remember to be in the space of interesting point of view. It opens up a freedom. It opens up a possibility, which is why when I was that space in the exercise in my class, people really couldn't find that much to judge. And when they did, it was usually positive judgments. One woman said, it was so much easier to judge you when you were in allowance. She's such a good mom. She's so pretty. She has a great sense of style, right? They can find those positive judgments a lot easier than the negative ones when you really have no point of view. And you get to recognize that even those, sometimes those are awareness. Sometimes it's a judgment, the positive things too. And we even modify ourselves, like, if someone said, Kathy's such a nice person, right? Then I might modify my behavior to try to look and act nice to meet their expectation. Kathy's such a responsible person, right? Even that judgment, okay? If I'm not in allowance of it, I may either resist it, probably not. I'm more likely to align and agree with it and say, okay, now I have to take the responsible action, right? And then judge all my behaviors to see, well, which is responsible? Is this more responsible than that? Is that responsible? Is that not? Is that irresponsible? Each judgment we have takes all these other judgments, and then it's a dance of judgment instead of, okay, interesting point of view. I don't need to resist. I don't need to align. I can float down the river without going to either polarity and collecting rocks, like I talked about in the first part of the show. So let's do what might be my favorite exercise that has to do with allowance. And there are a lot more. If you like this, we're actually going to do 5 days of energetic exercises for 5 days of energetic practices for getting out of judgment of self, of projects, of your past, so there are all these different categories we're going to do exercises for. And you can find that at meetkathywilliams.com. meetkathywilliams.com/upcoming is where all the upcoming stuff, and that's just 5 half hours, 20 minutes to half hours online where we connect and do an exercise and explore that exercise and have questions about it at the end of September. That is. All right, so go ahead, and if you're in a space where you can, it's not necessary to close your eyes, but it can be really nice too. Okay? And sense your body and sense the space around your body. And let's actually choose a judgment you have of yourself, a small one. Okay, don't go to the biggest one. We're taking baby steps here. Okay, a small judgment you have about yourself, like, oh, geez, I should have done this differently. In doing this exercise, you do not need to find a judgment first. But we're going to do it that way just because it's fun. Now expand your awareness out to fill the room so you're aware of all the walls, the floor, and the ceiling. Now expand your awareness out into your town or countryside, expanding out throughout the country, across the ocean, downward, upward, and outward until you're bigger than the planet. And keep going. And keep going. And keep going. And keep going. Bigger across the galaxy. Okay, so first the solar system, then the galaxy, just expanding. And as you expand, what's happened to the judgment? Does it sort of dissipate? When you're expansive, no point of view can stick you. You're spacious. So super fast. When you receive a judgment of yourself, from yourself, from someone else, expand out. See what changes. If it's truly real, it will stay. If it's not, it'll dissipate. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. I'm here on IOM.FM every Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific, and always on YouTube. I'm always there. And at meetkathywilliams.com. Meet Kathy with a K, Williams with an S.com. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. And if you can't wait